Hello and welcome to week 15 here in biopsychology. And we're looking at chapter 15, mood disorders and schizophrenia, and looking at these particular disorders through the lens, again, of biopsychology. In the discussion, what we're going to look at is now keeping in mind the biological slash medical approach, a piece of the biopsychosocial model of approach to mental illness and mental disorders. The biological part is largely based on the use of psychotropic medications that specifically target action within the synapse of the brain. Now, a couple things, caveat to that is when we take a medication that is supposed to, let's say, reduce the amount of neurotransmitters within the synaptic gap, there may be a very desirable psychiatric outcome, but that drug goes all over the body. It targets that activity in the brain, but it also targets that activity in all of the nerve cells. So there's always, when we're dealing with these kinds of things, as with all medications, there's always sort of like undesirable side effects that come along with that. Now, because the medications target those areas, and truth be told, the medications are incredibly effective. Now, there's debate, there's understanding about, not really fully realizing the effect of these things, but in terms of quality of life, in terms of removing people out of the institutions, in terms of giving people the opportunity to return to work, nothing has compared to the use of medications. It is the most successful approach within psychiatry. Granted, we're looking for other ways to do that, but nothing even compares in terms of the overall impact for people's lives. We recognize, though, that the biological approach targets what's happening in the synapse. Now, what I want you to do is consider this is right out of the course book here. What does this suggest about the neurotransmitter-based explanations of these disorders, and what other possible causes might we consider? Consider schizophrenia and mood disorders. So there's the biological part, and then what would that say? Look those up. Look up the biology of one of those disorders, and then consider other circumstances that may contribute to those particular disorders. And it may be that those other circumstances bring about the biological condition, or the biological condition brings about those circumstances. So this discussion is to sort of throw out there, looking at schizophrenia, looking at mood disorders, that would be depression, bipolar, those kinds of disorders. What's the interaction there between the biology and other factors that come in when we consider those disorders? So we'll be discussing that. In terms of the quiz, I'm really just driving home sort of a factoid about some of the terms that we use in psychology, and that's the term positive and negative. And in this case, there's two areas that we use these words in a similar way. Positive, in this sense, is something is added. It's the plus sign. Negative is something's taken away. So there's symptomology that appears because of a diagnosis, or it's there and therefore we can diagnose it. Those are positive symptoms, and likewise we see abilities or feelings or whatever that go away as a result of having a particular condition. So things are subtracted. This is the same concept of the mathematical use of positive and negative as we see in behavior management when we think about positive reinforcers and negative reinforcers. Positive reinforcers add something, like we get in a reward. Negative reinforcers take away something bad, and therefore it has a reinforcing capability. So that mathematical version of positive and negative. So, after I just told you all of that, go answer a question like, describe the differences between negative and positive symptoms of schizophrenia. Added, taken away. So, a little bit of research there, simply going into using those terms correctly. We don't get into what's good and bad, positive and negative. We're going into what's added and what's taken away. And so, with all of that, I should expect a pretty good grade in that one. So, this is going to be the last chapter that we discuss in this class. So this will be my last video. I want to tell you it's been a pleasure exploring this world with you. I really wish we could have got into some labs, but I just was not prepared to add that to this class at this point. Being online and working on it for future renditions of this class. I'm sure in some ways you're thankful I didn't. Certainly less work to do, but fun parts of this class. So I hope you've enjoyed the class. I certainly have. And so hopefully I'll see some of you around next semesters. And be well and take care. Have a great summer.